And while you're still present to the light that surrounds you, it's the light inside of you. I'd like for you to bring your hands into prayer pose. Bow towards your heart. And we inhale with 3 arms. Inhale deeply. Asatoma Sadgamaya Tamasoma Chotegamaya Mitroma Amritangamaya Aum Shanti Shanti Shanti. We take a deep inhalation, we suspend our breath. And then we exhale. Gently opening our eyes. Bringing our hands onto our knees, palms facing down. And let's just start with neck rolls. Bring your chin towards your collarbone. Exhale, inhale. And bring your head up towards the heavens. In and exhale through your nostrils. And if you feel like it, you can slowly engage your spine. So that it's not only the head, but your spine starts to move. And feel the connection between the head and the rest of your body. And be present to the interconnectedness. Reverse the direction. There's nothing separate inside of us, and there's actually nothing separate outside of us. The only separation we are creating is in our head. Good, last 3 rotations. And we come to center and we place the hands onto the opposite shoulder. And we inhale over to the left. We lean to the left side as much as we can without lifting our right sit bone off the ground. Exhale to the right. Again, all breath is through your nostrils. Go as slow as you can, so also lengthen the inhalation as well as your exhalation. Let more air flow in and out than usual. Even in this posture where we just hold on to the opposite shoulders, we're actually working our brain, yeah, because we are crossing in front of our body. Good, one more time to each side. And then you just gently come to center and you turn your torso all the way to the left and then exhale to the right, still having your hands on the opposite shoulder. Find your own pace here. You can go slow or you can increase the pace to your liking.
Is there something else I can help with?
What?
Is there something else I can help with?
Make sure you twist from the base of your spine and allowing the rest of your torso to follow. Make sure you take your head with you, both directions. And we gently come back to center. Inhale deeply. Exhale, open mouth. 2 more times, inhale. Exhale, open mouth. 1 more round. Now I like for you to interlace your fingers behind your neck. Have the thumbs run on the outside of your neck. Inhale, arch your mid-spine, upper spine slightly. Exhale, fold forward as much as your body allows you to. Inhale through your nose. Exhale, open mouth. Inhale, nose. Exhale, open mouth. Keep your elbows out to the side. Do not press your head down. The movement comes from your hips. Open up your lower back. Keep your sit bones glued to whatever you're sitting on. Last 3 times. When we slowly come back up, we place our hands behind us and you arch your spine. You look up to the ceiling, drop your head back just to your liking. Inhale through your nose, exhale, open mouth. Make sure you open and rotate your shoulders. Focus on your heart center. Last 2 deep breaths. Now gently straighten your spine and very slowly bring your chin back to parallel. Your hands onto your knees, palms facing upward. Tune into your perineum. Breathe into your heart center. And make sure your shoulders are dropped. Good. And then we're ready for Nirmala.
Thank you, Siddhi. That was really nice, stretching in my neck and my back like that. Oof. We forget sometimes how much tension we carry around with us. And it isn't until we start stretching our body out that we go, ooh, that was a little tight. So good morning, ladies. I'm in Hawaii with my daughter for a few days. So it's 5:17 a.m. And because I didn't want her to be awake, with all the lights on and whatnot, I went into the lobby. I told City. So I went down to this beautiful lobby and I thought I would sit in the lobby, but I hadn't noticed, I had not been observant in my other times in the lobby to have noticed that there was a very loud Hawaiian music in the background. And I was like, I don't think I can talk over that. The view is very nice, but I don't think I'll be audible over this Hawaiian music. So I came downstairs to this lower level, sort of a office central space for, I'm not sure what it's for, but so I'm down here now and there doesn't seem to be anyone, but if the vacuums begin or the people start flooding through, you'll know why. But it's beautiful, and having the luxury of a few days with my daughter, where she's captive with me and can't get away. It's really good. I'm really loving it. We're having so much fun, just, musing, as you were saying, Lois, just being together with your family. Lois is visiting her family and her granddaughter, Genevieve, is with us. So welcome, Genevieve. We love having all ages on this call, all women from all different walks of life and different experiences. And we hope you will join us regularly if it fits into your schedule. But just being with family and in a different way, we're not in our normal environment, Madeline and I, and it leaves an opening for different kinds of discussions and different kinds of musings, and I'm really enjoying that. So taking time for replenishing ourselves with family. So today, interesting, Dawn, you really led into this in your comments in our sharing time today into my topic, which is micro practices as we re-engage in the outward life. Now we're starting to step back into our former life of going to the office or being out in shopping in grocery stores and traffic. I'm so surprised at how traffic has picked up again. We were having these months where you would go, if you needed to be out, there was no traffic anywhere, whether it was on the highway or going into the store or going to the airport. Everything's been so pared down. And now we're opening that up and re-entering, and we're getting to ask ourselves some questions about, oh, how do I want to do this differently? What were the pieces of the rhythm that I had during the lockdown time that I want to sustain, and how do I sustain those within the new structure? Will my office allow me to? Will my family allow me to? Will my city allow me to? How am I going to recalibrate and sort of take it up a notch again, or do I want to? And so I want to talk a little bit today about our equanimity and how we maintain that equanimity as we re-engage with the outside world, and what that looks like, and what are some micro practices that we might employ if we're standing in a line that we haven't been in a while and we start to feel a little bit like, this is kind of bothering me. I'm not really crazy. Or we re-enter an office space and say, this is not the same as being at home. It's not the right temperature. It's not the right feeling. It's not the right atmosphere. And yet I need to be here. So what do we do to be able to engage ourselves in those scenarios and still feel there's a certain calm that we have acquired during this lockdown phase, where we've been less bombarded by outside influences? That it's easier when you're in your own home not to be bothered by things that people are doing or saying because you're relatively on your own. So you have a certain control over your environment. Now, as we re-engage in the outside world, our control is diminished. And that can be very frustrating and very annoying. So what to do with that? How do we re-engage? So let's talk about even judgment. To begin with, we'll notice how much judgment we have about what's appropriate or right or familiar or pleasant for us. Even the whole masking, whether some people are masking, some people are not, you might feel comfortable one way or the other. And there's an immediate sort of judgment about why aren't you to someone else? Why isn't that person participating in the way that feels comfortable for me? And we can really notice this is a great opportunity for us to really notice where our immediate judgments come up and how they just flood through us without us giving any thought to it. That we're just moving through our day and we're sort of taking each little piece that comes to us and we're categorizing it. This is good, this is bad, this is appropriate, this is interesting, this is very fluid, I like this, but we immediately have a judgment. So we're experiencing things on a ledger, better, worse, good, bad, rather than experiencing it just as is. As things come to us, just what is in this situation. Oh, I'm observant that some people are really masking up in situations that don't require them, but they still are, and some people aren't. And how comfortable am I feeling in that situation? These are fabulous opportunities. Our aim in our spiritual journey is to be able to enter any environment, any situation, and only do what is necessary within that environment and that situation. If it's necessary for us to engage to support change or to help with something that's become a problem, we enter into that in willingness. But it's not necessary for us to enter into these situations with judgments of this is good or this is bad. That's what keeps us in divisiveness. It's what keeps us separate from. The more that we have a judgment and an opinion about something, the less likely we are to be able to emerge as part of the whole. We stay separate from. And if our aim is to understand and experience the wholeness of humanity and the wholeness of all sentient beings and the wholeness of all living energy, then we have to stop dividing ourselves out and putting ourselves over to one side, and then everything else is over here. We have to engage and be a part of. And the first place that is one of separation is in judgment. So we're having a great opportunity as we re-engage and re-enter the world to notice and observe ourselves and our patterns around judgment. And maybe take time to say, I'm in observation. It's very different to be in observation than it is to be in judgment. You can observe something and record it and have acknowledgement of it as what it is. The temperature in this room is this. That's one thing. What I prefer is this is another. That it is bad because it's this is another. These are all different levels of our capacity to experience what's around us. So how wonderful for us to get this re-entry period as an illumination of how it is that we move through the world in our judgments. So let's take that opportunity because it's fun for us to do that. It's fun. We're going to notice a lot about ourselves. So there are various levels or structures in our spiritual discipline. Siddhi and I talk each week about adding new things to your spiritual discipline. And it may feel like we have so many possibilities that it's almost as though you're paralyzed, which one to use or which one to activate in any given situation. But we can really divide our spiritual discipline into two different sections. One is the daily discipline that you employ to settle your mind, stretch your body, integrate the entirety of self. That might be your meditation and your pranayama and your asanas. That's your daily practice that you've pieced together from different disciplines and different traditions that works for you. And that's something that stabilizes you. It's meant to be a stabilizing factor in your life, something that you do every day for whether it's 5 minutes or 2 hours, whatever the length is, but that keeps you in a flow and in alliance and in alignment with the way that you want to be able to relate to the world. And then the second level or structures of a spiritual discipline are these micro practices that we keep talking about, which are meant to be utilized in the moment. So you've done your time on the mat, you did your meditation in the morning, and you go out into the world, and still the world comes at you. And still there are situations and behaviors that you witness that can give rise to feelings inside of you that can erupt in either something you voice or just how you feel, that you feel this stickiness around something that's happening out in the world or even in your family that makes you think, I need to address this. But in this moment, I want to stay in my equanimity. In this moment, I want to stay calm and peaceful and be observant and witness to what's happening, but not be reactive. So these micro practices are meant to be utilized when these individual small moments come up for us, so that we have the opportunity to smile through them and to think there's something that might need to be adjusted here, but I don't have to adjust it in this moment and take on all of the external pieces that are attached to it, the people, the situations, the location that are attached to it. I can think about it and respond in a very generous way in my own timing. So establishing this toolbox of our go-tos when we feel unsettled or we're observing something that is creating a movement. We're also somatic. So much happens to us through our body. And when your body feels something rising up in it, you know that that's a time that you might want to address something. So you have an opportunity in that moment to utilize one of these micro practices. Ultimately, our spiritual discipline encompasses everything in life. There's nothing that isn't spiritual. Everything is, from your waking up in the morning to your engaging with your own practices to engaging with your family members. Everything that you do is spiritual. Every opportunity that we walk into has a spiritual edge to it. We cannot actually move out of the spirit journey. We're spirit. So our spiritual journey follows us everywhere we go throughout our day. It's not a separate category of, I'm in a spiritual practice, now I'm in life. Your life is your spiritual practice. And the willingness for us to handle it as it comes in all forms is the depth of our spiritual journey, that we're willing and conscious. How we do this journey consciously has the biggest impact on our spiritual discipline and our equanimity, our consciousness and our presence in this journey. And that requires us to be in observation, to have pragmatic or micro practice responses that empower us to hold this equanimity and to hold the spiritual journey in a lighter fashion in our life, so that it's woven into our life rather than being separate from, rather than it being something that we go to and do, and then we go to life. Let each breath that you take be your spirit journey. So Siddhi spends a lot of time every week. She spends time on breathing, talking about how we inhale and exhale and how we use different pranayama practices to support us in this journey. And I will say that the breath work is the underlying foundation for everything. But what I'd like to work with today is to introduce several micro practices that are associated with our five senses. So we're going to start with our sight. A way to slow down a runaway mind is to fix one of our senses on a single object. It can be something very close to you. It can even be an object that you hold in your mind. It doesn't have to be an external object, but to focus on one thing. So the situation is arising where we'd like to respond and say something, but we know we should give it more time. Maybe it's too heightened in the way that what's happening in the family discussion, or it's a public situation where you need to step back from it and let it evolve. But something's rising in you, you feel the need to engage, and focusing on one object, choosing anything that happens to be around you in your immediate environment, or something that's pleasing to you that you can call into your mind as an object to focus on, immediately takes your mind off of whatever the situation is that's in front of you that might be causing some distress. It gives you in a moment an momentary distraction away from. So it gives you a focus. So just keep in mind that you are surrounded by objects and you have a mind full of beautiful things that you can focus on in an instant. Always you can call to a favorite painting, the cover of a book that you love, a flower that brings you, the scent of which brings you great joy, anything that gives you pleasure, that for a moment it removes you from the situation that you're in. And you can be standing there smiling quite nicely and no one knows what you're looking at, focusing on, or pulling into your mind, your mind's eye. This is a really beautiful way to immediately disengage and just be able to observe. Observation and silence and standing back, holding back is our greatest tool. Most of us jump in so quickly to a situation, and it's hard for us not to engage, particularly as parents, as mothers, how often we have a solution and we take that into the world. And when we see situation, we jump in to solve it. We're really good at that. But it's a beautiful practice to stand back and see what evolves on its own and what is really your piece and what is somebody else's piece. So choosing an object in our immediate environment or in our mind's eye, great way to utilize our sense of sight as a way to allow us to disengage and to sit for a moment with something. Vision being our most dominant sense that we use, closing our eyes is a wonderful way to pull in a whole internal landscape that we have. So if you can, in the situation you're in, to actually close your eyes and use your internal landscape, that's a beautiful way to utilize this focusing on something. The next sense is our sense of sound and listening. If something is causing a problem for you, stop and listen to what other sounds are actually happening. Stop for a moment. You might hear birds, you might hear traffic or horns, you might hear music that's playing, and wherever you are, you might hear the bustle of people moving. Just stop and listen and observe, what are the sounds that are happening around me? And take a moment. If you really need to take a moment to withdraw, it's a wonderful time to have preset a playlist on your phone from Spotify or whatever music program you use, platform you use, to be able to listen to some music, chanting or mantras or classical or whatever it is that is beautiful for you. Choose to listen to something in that moment that takes you again away from this rising of the need to respond or to have a feeling that I'm out. This is out of, the situation is out of control. I have no control in it, and yet it's out of control from my experience. But I need to stay in it. Even just being on the streets now with more people and pushing, and there's a lot going on. Using sound to help ground us. And I highly recommend setting up a playlist ahead of time, your go-to favorite playlist of songs that bring you into a place of, that just bubble you out of where you are. And maybe you can remove yourself to a little quieter place and listen to that, put on your headset. But if you don't have that, there are always sounds. It's rare that we're in silence. If you're in a place of silence, you probably aren't going to need this practice. You're probably already fine. But if you're out in public and there's something going on, look around. We're looking for things that are surrounding us and inside of us that can give us just all we need is a momentary break, a crack between how it is that we're feeling and what it is that's going on externally, so that we can have a moment to readjust. That's all we need. And taking our mind and our concentration off of what's happening for just even a few seconds or a minute gives us that space. You often hear spiritual teachers say, count to 3, take some breaths. Don't respond until you've counted to 3 or 10 or whatever the number is. This is another version of this. These are ways of using the beautiful senses that we have to incorporate the capacity for us to just take a break, just to remove ourselves. The next is smell. The sense of smell is so powerful, and it is linked, it's our strongest sense that's linked to memory and emotion. We smell something and we can easily be taken someplace. So it isn't always going to be possible for us to impact or shift the sense of smell that's around us. A really wonderful way to use our sensory experience is to carry around, whether it's an essential oil like lavender or rose, something that, a very small bottle of perfume or cologne or your essential oil, whatever it is that you can utilize that will allow you to have the experience of being transformed and transported somewhere else. And the last two, which we're going to talk about, of course, are our taste, having something in your pocket or in your handbag, a little gumdrop, a little chiclet, whatever it happens, something that you can put into your mouth. Just the picking up of that, finding that little thing, putting it in your mouth gives you the space to readjust to what it is that's happening externally in that moment. And the last is touch. It's used in many different traditions, the worry stones or malas, keeping a little worry stone, very small stone in your handbag or your pocket. If just touching it and rubbing your hand across something smooth and cool is very soothing to us. It's a beautiful way for us to just take a moment without it even being noticeable to whatever is going on around us, whoever is around us, that we're just recentering ourselves. So take time this next week to use these micro practices of your senses when you need them as you re-engage in the world and you move out into the world, to be able to stay in this place of equanimity that you may have developed over these last months of having more quiet and solitary time as we re-enter into families and groups and situations externally, using these sensory micro practices to allow us to stay in that place of equanimity and see how that works.
Thank you, my dear. So while Nirmala was speaking, I thought, and I can go deeper into it, the Ketchari Mudra, because that's something you can do wherever you are. And you don't have to even, nobody will see what you're doing. So, but it's really grounding. And in yoga, they call it drinking the nectar from inside your head, which I think is a beautiful explanation. So what we will do, we will curl our tongue inside of our mouth as far back as we can. So you will like curl your tongue and bring your tongue back as far as you can. Yeah, so we learn to stretch our tongue. At one point, if we do it long enough, yeah, the tip of our tongue goes all the way into our throat. We are not there this morning, but just bring your tongue, roll it up, bring it back, place the tongue maybe against the upper palate and relax your tongue there. And then you bring your hands into the Hakini Mudra, so all our fingertips touch, yeah, like a tipi. And you just rest this mudra in your lap, my fingertips pointing slightly down. And this morning I want no mantra. I want you just to allow your breath to be your mantra. You just follow your breath. While the tongue is doing its work, the fingertips are doing their work. So the body is working for you right now. The only thing you have to do is to relax and be in the experience without knowing what it all does. Being in the unknown with ease. We gently let go of the mudra and bring our hands into prayer pose. We relax our tongue. Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Thank you for being with us. being in our V space. Have a beautiful weekend, and we see you next Saturday.